Okay, we're on.
Yep.
All right, this day is the day that it is, November 10th. It is just after 6 o'clock. I think we published this as a budget work session. So that's what we got. In attendance, we have our fiscal officer, Mr. Wilczek, village council, Jesse Champ, councilpersons, Shrestha, Camera, Bruger, myself, Council President Wolf, and Mayor Southard. So, as this is a work session, I guess I will start. It looks like you have a printout of sort of, no? You just have a lot of paper in front of you, so I didn't know if you...
A lot of it from the last meeting
Got it.
and the finals.
Okay,
One
yeah.
copy.
One copy of the final. So I guess the first question is there any appreciable deltas to explain to us between what we went over at the work session a week ago and the final?
No, I added in $2,000 in general fund for street signs, $2,000 in the street fund for street signs. I tweaked a couple of numbers, one in a salary range, just to accommodate what we discussed.
Okay.
Double checked a few numbers. I also found a formula problem in general fund. So good side is general fund is still just hanging below $1 million carryover balance for the 5 years.
Yep. Well,
Okay.
can you explain what you mean by a formula problem in the general fund? Because
There was
I
a
know all those
subtotal that
words.
did not get added to the total line.
Ah, got it. Okay.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, so the numbers were there, it just didn't calculate,
Correct.
and
Yes.
but the bottom line, we're still in that same range
Yes.
between 4 and
We're
6
we're
months
nine,
expenses.
just under 1 million, and
And
as
that's
low
at
as
the end of-
978
And that's at the end of next year or the end of 5 years?
at the end of 5 years.
Oh,
At
it-
the end of it, that's a big
Oh,
difference,
yeah.
because generally, that's, I mean, what's gonna be at the end of the
we
year
usually
then?
have a big dip.
Is it going up or going down?
It went
What's your
down a little bit
projection?
from where we were the other night, but we're just below $1 million.
So it's dropping and then it just kind of plateaus out?
Yes.
So it looks like we drop a little bit because we're spending a lot next year. But then, so it looks like we're steadily generating almost $1 million more than we spend. Is that
Well,
accurate?
no, because you're starting with that, right? So
No, we're spending-
you're spending everything you're
We're,
making.
okay,
you're
never
spending
mind, that's
everything you're
what I was
bringing in,
missing in my head.
But you had $1 million in your
That's what I'm
pocket when
missing.
you started.
And I'm also just used to looking at school budgets, which just constantly eventually zero out.
Yes.
Because
We've
the
spent-
levies don't increase and you
In
don't get
23 and
raises.
24, we've spent down general
And so
fund
just
balance.
eventually they
from-
zero out.
And we're trying to keep it level at
Yeah.
around $1 million as a carryover to cover projects that crop up on emergency. If we have a downturn in revenues, we've got a safety level.
Yeah,
And,
if we had another 2008 employment event,
yeah.
right, you're
Yes.
gonna want those
So-
4 to 6 months
Yes.
in
Well, and right
your
now,
pocket.
Yeah.
a lot is still just what ifs because we're just now at the first school opening. And next year we have the next school. So everything is pretty much hypothetical at this point.
So even if we had a downturn, we may just see it stay level for a year or two and then
Yeah,
climb
because the
back
middle
up.
school's gonna have at least 100 employees
We haven't
at an
baked
average
in-
salary of about 60,000 a year.
Right.
You
Which
haven't
is
baked
6
in those
million,
middle
which
school employees. in
2%
there, right?
of
No.
Okay.
is
No. Hey,
200,000.
I didn't put much growth in on the income tax, but
Okay.
a little bit, okay?
Yeah, just
So-
from,
And, you know, we're gonna hit 1.8 this year. I kept it at 1.8 for next year. And then it jumps up, no, I kept it at 1.8 for 24 also.
okay.
And then it'll jump up.
Right.
So, you know, and again, doing this again next year gives us a chance to revisit it all and reassess what we're trying to
Yeah,
do.
no,
And
it's better to have conservative projections
Yes.
Then,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
than be surprised later. Hey,
Yeah.
we projected
So-
double revenue and
one of the other things that came up was working in dollars for the grant writer, and Mayor and I had conversation. There's money in the storm sewer maintenance fund to help cover that. There's going to be money in the pool improvement fund to cover a grant writer going after grants for pool improvements. So if we end up with something else more specific, then we'll have to reassess what we've got and see if I need to appropriate it somewhere else.
right. So what you're saying is you think that we have funds appropriated or funds places for those purposes.
Yes.
So we didn't
Already.
need to additionally encumber the general fund for that. Okay.
I'd rather have the cost of going after grants associated with the operating fund or improvement fund that it
Yeah,
relates
no,
to.
That makes sense.
Okay.
That absolutely makes sense.
So-
All right. So I will say I do not have any additional questions regarding this, but we can, go ahead.
Just thinking here, I'm sorry.
No. Council
Nikki
Person
wasn't
Trustee.
at,
No.
Oh, at the work session.
yes, so, you had asked for some dollars worked into the council side of things for a survey, et cetera, there's money there, okay? Our project list is still holding, as we talked about initially too, okay? Conversation with Flickinger today, we talked about the next 2 years and what's on the agenda for next year. But I also told him, I said, we need to start filling in years 3, 4, and 5. Because eventually, you're gonna make the commitment for some of these projects when it's 3 years out with engineering and so on. And you can always say no to the project, but once you start the engineering work and working forward, you're pretty committed, okay? But we gotta look out 3 to 5 years to see what's going on so we can cover these things too. I also stressed at the last meeting that the bond proceeds have to be spent down by May of '25. So we are under the gun to get things engineered, the bids out and taken care of, and the project started. Okay?
I think after the Jordan Road Storm Sewer project, we'll be in a position where we will be less reactive, right? I think for the last 7 years of our engineering projects, they've all been very reactive to emergent need. We should be, at that point, no longer at a point of emergency on everything, and we can start looking forward.
Yes. We had a little monkey wrench thrown in our plans
Of course you do.
yesterday.
Okay.
Flow Line is going out of business.
Son of a bitch.
Well, there's another company out there that does it that we can find, I'm
So-
sure.
Mike is working on trying to find one, but they're few and far between.
Yeah.
So,
Flow
we are
line is-
going to buy their trucks, and we are gonna start doing it.
I,
Mike and I decided we're gonna go in business
How-
together.
yeah, look.
No, it is extremely few and far between. There is actually one place that he believes is still doing it in Columbus area. But he is gonna reach out to some areas like in Dayton and things and see if they are willing, because the reason we
was-
did Flow Line is they
Do
were,
bigger
they were the
systems
only one
just
we
have
could afford
their
at
own,
the
is
time.
that the thing?
Okay.
Honestly,
gonna be
I
bad.
don't know on that one.
Like, City of Columbus has to be doing the same
Probably
kind
doing
of
their
stuff,
own.
but.
So they
They
do
probably
their
have their
own.
own.
Right,
They
and
actually do their,
Westerville does their own,
as far as I know. And the only reason I know Columbus was doing their own is because they were behind our house. Maybe we can call Columbus and ask them to do ours.
Well, I was gonna say, or see, yeah, call Columbus and say like, hey, we'll pay you.
Yeah, I
We'll
mean,
pay for the days that they're here, like, figure out what the day's labor is, we'll cover it.
Yes. What was on the agenda to be done yet this year is not happening.
Yeah, we got a memo that they are
Oh, wow, so they are.
closing their
they
doors
are
December
closing.
22nd.
why?
Yeah.
Do we know why?
That you can't, the email states that they cannot get employees.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And I mean, honestly, if you're trying to run a business and you're continually canceling on people.
Yeah. you can't because
I
you
mean, this
can't
was
fill
supposed
it.
to be done, like, we followed up with them a couple weeks ago because we were
Interesting.
expecting this to be done in like September, middle of October. So, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Mike started trying to get some answers and as to why we hadn't seen them yet, because they're usually turning it around decently fast.
Yeah,
and that was the response we got.
I mean, they've been the only company
Right.
we've used for that for as long as
Yeah.
I've been engaged in all of this.
The other company that is in Columbus, the reason that we started using flow lines all the time is because the other company was drastically, I shouldn't say, I'm under the impression that it was drastically higher. Now, maybe that's changed. At this point, they're all higher because of diesel and all that, so we will find somebody to do it,
And now that they're the only game in town, that's only gonna be worse.
getting on their books, yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I know we were joking about buying their equipment, but
Oh, yeah, no.
you know,
Mike and I have a game plan. No,
it's worth a conversation just to see what that number is, right?
yeah.
I mean, the worst what happens is it's a number that makes us pucker
Well,
so hard it's a,
The other
it's
side
a
is,
zero.
it's
And
not gonna do you a bit of good to buy the equipment if you still can't get the employees.
how
And
hard
if you
can it
don't
be?
know.
You put the hose down the line.
Sounds like Brian's volunteering for that
yeah,
position.
Look, I got weekends free sometimes.
Speaking of buying our own equipment, We kind of threw around at some meeting here recently about us doing our own leaf pickup.
Again, I think it's a conversation that at any point we can start talking about. I don't know what equipment like that actually costs. I know Brad recently bought his, the gentleman that we used last year that does a lot of our tree stuff. He recently bought his, like 2 years ago. So I don't know that it was, I think you're gonna pay for it in a short amount of time and, you know, again, it's,
Well,
Just
you also need
seeing-
a significantly larger truck than we've talked
Right.
about to pull the equipment
Yes.
and to blow the leaves into.
so.
I would say buying the equipment isn't gonna be less than $100,000.
I think you're on target.
And
that's-
then.
But
But
it's
over
gonna
4
be-
years,
Right.
That's equipment.
right. Oh, no.
Then
yeah.
you're talking an extra however much, $5,000 a year in paying people to run the
Gas.
equipment.
Right.
Well, the people doing the work, it's a 3-person team, we don't have, you know, so you're hiring temp work that are doing that.
And we
You're
don't have
you're
that kind of
gassing
money
it
in the
up, you're
streets.
repairing it. In the long run, it would be cheaper, obviously, because people do this and make a profit off it. So
Right.
they're charging us more than it costs them to do it.
Right.
That, I mean, that's the secret
You're
behind
gonna blow-
business.
you're
It's
talking
always cheaper to
about
do it
a-
yourself, but
You're gonna spend a couple
How
$100,000
much?
for equipment that you're gonna use for a few weeks out of the year and then it sets.
Well, it does and it doesn't.
Doesn't make
I mean,
sense.
the way that I understand it is the actual sucker up wouldn't be used, but the truck itself would be
Yeah,
the same
sure.
truck.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I think,
you have a
It
point
could
there,
be a-
there's a difference between the sucker up and the truck.
Yeah, you
And-
could have a big box trailer and
Make fun of
and
me, I
have
don't
have the vacuum
yes, the vacuum.
in the box trailer, right? And a big truck pulling a box trailer with the vacuum.
Usually the vacuum is a separate piece of equipment.
Well-
Usually, I mean, look, I'm dreaming here.
Yeah.
No,
But from that back of the envelope math, we're looking at
there's more to
a
it.
6 to 8 year payback, right? Which isn't awful.
Yeah, I just happened to pass them the other day, and I'm like, it's just one piece of equipment that blows into the
right, and what
couple-
happens,
couple plywood
You're-
pieces on the back of a pickup
But your
truck.
dump truck for that is still $100,000,
But it-
easy.
and if you had something
And you're
bigger,
80 to 100,000 just for the vacuum.
right. I don't know, I will tell you that the equipment that I was understanding that Brad got was
Estimates
significantly
I've got in
lower.
another place.
But it was used,
Okay.
so again, I don't know any of that.
Yeah.
So this is, I know we're in the finance, so I'll make this really quick. It's, and along with that, I will tell you, I already did get a phone call, that at we dump for free, meaning the village dumps for free. I called them before the season started because John was having a conflict, or the contractor was having a conflict with the place that we dump. And I said, give me his phone number, I've already talked to, okay, so I call him, and yes, municipalities dump for free. So, okay, so I call John, you're fine, you can go
Have you
dump.
seen that?
John gets
Yeah.
there the first day to go dump and he can't dump. Now, again, there's obviously something going on. I call the guy and I said, I'm calling for, I talked to you September 4th, I have the date and time and everything, and I said, I talked to you and you said it wasn't an issue. And he says, right, you guys can dump for free. He goes, oh, you have the landscaper person. And I was like, yeah, they don't dump for free. It
It's our
needs to be, well, so this is where I'm going with that. It needs to be your truck. So it needs to be, we let municipalities dump, but the problem with using landscapers is they can't tell the difference between when they're doing their own job and when they're doing the Village of Minerva Park. So now, what happens is, every single morning, this is why I have accurate statements of this, every single morning that our contractor comes, I get a phone call. And then I have to make a phone call to let them know that he is dumping our leaves. So every morning between 8 and 9 a.m., this is what I'm doing. So fast forward, he tells me next year, not gonna happen. If it doesn't happen, that $30,000 is going to significantly skyrocket. Other than that, we will have to get with that company or with the place that we dump and actually work on something together. and Stacy does not know this, she's part of streets, this has just been something going on. So we will need, when we do the leaf contract, we are going to need to find out if they're gonna be able to dump, because he has already told me it's not gonna happen.
Right.
Unless we are in our own truck.
Can we throw magnets on their truck?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but then that is a great question, and then it would be turned to you, is that a liability if he wrecks a truck with the Minerva Park? You know, is he working for Minerva Park at that point? What is the liability with that? So that was our solution or non-solution, or do we give him like a, you know, I'm working for a badge?
Any questions?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the issue becomes,
Yeah.
They come up
I'll look at that.
it's still, they still can't decipher if it's our leaves or somebody else's, and he does not want them doing it because it's not fair to other landscapers that can't do it.
Sure.
So I get it, but that went along with what you were saying, and I'm done. So that was, I don't know what to do moving forward.
Is, other than annoying you, I shouldn't talk this far from the recorder, is it, other than being annoying for you to do the phone call, is he, are they moving?
No,
the
they're just,
vendor's
that is,
saying-
the vendor, they're saying no.
The
This,
vendor's
they're
saying
only
it's-
bending for us because he told me that we could do it and there was
Gotcha, so
miscommunication.
this is
It
like,
is not
hey,
annoying,
I
no.
understand, blah, 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 and we'll let it slide this
Yeah.
time, but don't think it's gonna happen again.
Correct, it was
Okay.
basically like, this isn't gonna work moving,
Okay.
I'm sure he doesn't wanna hear from me every
Oh,
morning being that way.
I totally get it, that's
No,
just where I
it's-
was looking to see where it was at.
Keep in mind, that's a working document.
It's 45 days of him calling me, so no, it's not a big deal, I'm up. It's not like I'm getting woken up or anything like
Gotcha.
that, and, you know, but like today,
Well,
I was in
and
the middle
didn't
of a
even
meeting,
mean it that way.
and I
mean,
couldn't.
I
do
honestly
it.
also just agree, like, if it is just like, oh, this is just a pain, what can we do to solve having to do this?
No, because I mean, honestly, if I'm not there, or if I know something's going on, Barb could handle it because work hours are that. So,
Yeah.
no, I mean, as a village, we would be able to handle that. That is not the issue. The issue is more, they don't want, it's not fair to the other landscapers if we're allowing him to do it, and how do we decipher who's doing it?
Right.
So,
Makes sense.
so no, it's not a laziness on anybody's part. It's not annoying. It's that it's just not probably gonna happen. Again.
And it's the dump facility that's
Correct.
saying, no, it's
I
not,
believe
it's
it's-
not our guy.
No, it's Ohio
where we
mulch.
dump it at.
It's where we dump it at. We
Yeah.
dump for free, and apparently that is a large chunk of. Every year that I have dealt with this, because you gotta remember I did this when I was on the streets committee, so this has been 5 years now that I've been doing it. Every year, the main thing that, you know, John and even this other guy said is you have to make sure that you can get me the letter that says I can dump for free, because this bid is based on the fact that I can dump for free.
Right.
And we've been able to do that. We've never had an issue, never had a problem, and again, I spoke to them before, and he said it was not a problem, but he thought it was, we had our own Minerva Park truck that,
You know what cheeses me and all that is they're just turning those leaves into mulch that they're gonna turn around and sell.
Sell.
Like, how rude is it to?
Coming and going.
Yeah, how rude is it to say you gotta pay me to take my raw materials from
Right.
you?
Yep.
That-
I'm even bringing it to you,
I don't
darn
know
it.
that the leaves are turning into good mulch, I mean, you're not using that for like mulch, you know.
No, it gets composted.
Okay, compost, yeah,
And
turn it into compost.
and leaf mulch is actually really good. Like, so if I had the spoons and the wherewithal to actually rake my leaves into a nice pile, come the spring, it's a pretty mulch. It may not be like wood bark mulch that most people are used to. It's a pretty mulch that can go in your planting beds just fine.
I just mulch it up in the yard and
Yeah,
mow
that's what
it.
we did this year.
A few extra passes and it's nice and fine.
That's right.
So,
you go.
so that's, again, that's a great conversation to
Yeah,
have
I
when
think-
we,
Yeah, we've talked about, you know, how do we keep a maintenance person employed all year round? And if we're adding the ability to plow, do we add the ability to pick up leaves too and keep them employed? And
I think it's worth
so-
looking to see if there's anything on the bid, like how much that equipment actually is or something like that, or, again, I know Brad got that stuff within the last 2 years, and that's something that Eric does know him, not like whatever, but I'm sure Eric could find out how much he paid for it, and I'm sure, I mean, honestly, I could probably ask Brad what he paid for it, I don't, you know, because we didn't use them this year, I don't know. But we could at least find out, it doesn't mean that we can get it for that, but we can try.
But I think that we just need to figure out who wants to drive that conversation, and in January of next year, that's a policy / strategy / big picture conversation to work
Right.
out.
Oh, yeah.
Because we did put a truck in the budget, right?
Yes,
That's still
Yeah.
in there, okay.
And that truck would be
But-
able to,
But it may or
That's
may
a-
not be.
that's like an F-250.
Right.
Yeah, but I think it
I don't
Snow
think
plow on the front,
he doesn't
collection in
actually
the
use
back.
anything more than that. I don't know that his is even an F-150.
Yeah, I feel like it was just a pickup
But
truck.
oh, it is.
Yeah.
But I think if we were doing it, it would be nice to have, I think he probably, the reason it takes him a little bit longer, and this is me saying this, I don't know this. I think maybe the amount of leaves he could put in there in comparison
Oh,
to
sure.
maybe, if we were
Yeah.
doing it ourselves, we would want
Right.
more capacity to be able to.
Right.
Do it in
Well,
fewer
and we're
rounds.
not
Do
his only
fewer runs.
customer, so he has to hit the other places too.
Yeah.
We're just seeing comments, I'm just wondering.
I'm
you know,
going
if we have
to-
our own person.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I'm not even getting the true commercial
Yeah,
size.
yeah, no,
on
that's, I
this.
was looking and I didn't see
Yeah.
anything that I really felt was,
I don't think they're flying off, like,
The
easy
township I
find.
will do some work for, they were looking at repairing and keeping theirs up, but they also were looking at a new one, and I'm pretty certain their street superintendent threw out a figure of $80,000 for it.
and that's probably right. I know, I'm pretty positive Brad
And that's
was
just
used
for the
when I saw
sucker,
the
not
pictures.
the.
That's
truck,
just the
right?
vacuum,
Yeah, that's just the vacuum.
And the dump trucks that the big box goes into in the back is another $100,000 easy.
Yeah. Unless you just put plywood on like they were saying.
Oh.
I'm just,
But again,
Yeah,
yeah, small truck, you're only gonna get
Oh,
so far
no.
down the street before you gotta go dump.
Yeah.
and that's the issue
but
I
you can
think that
have
we have.
a 12-foot trailer and box that in with plywood. You can carry a lot of leaves in a 12 by, what, it's 5 by 4 box.
Yeah, but then you have a vehicle, a trailer. Now you're looking at a three.
I believe
Three
we're
hitch train.
solutioning something that is a conversation we're not
Yeah.
even starting until next year.
So let's get back to
Let's
finance
get back
here,
to finance.
because it's almost 7:30 already.
Other questions about the proposed budget?
Yes, that's what we had intended here. Nikki, you were the only one that wasn't here for the deep dive conversation, but no, so did anybody else have, I mean, we can also wrap this up
good
and
to
shoot
see.
the shit for 30 minutes as far as I'm concerned. So, if nobody else has any questions or concerns or comments, I'll move that we adjourn this work session, having done the work, and plus some more.
Can someone read me in on the first 15 minutes?
Oh, we just, so there were no big delta, no big changes to the,
Other than the street
Yeah.
signs.
yeah.
Were you,
other than
you were here
adding-
for the work session when we talked about,
Yes.
okay.
Cool.
So the only
We said
change-
nothing's really changed.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
that's it.
Except added $2,000 for street signs.
Yeah.
Jeff,
Nice,
And-
that'll be
I
good.
am
And there
coming
was
to you
a
next
correction
week
in
for the
a
resident
formula
appreciation
and adding stuff up in the
January.
sheet, but the
I'm sorry.
dollars and
I
cents that
am
are being
coming to you next week
Cool.
to talk
Yep.
to you about the resident appreciation.
All right. Do you wanna do it?
Yeah, so let's,
She seconded it.
oh yeah, okay, then let's go, we're done, close it off.